Hello all and welcome to this hands-on lab. In our lab today, we will learn how to create, update, delete and test a CloudFront distribution. Before we continue further ahead, a couple of things to keep in mind. Using AWS services leveraged in this lab can incur charges. Hence, ensure that you clean up all resources after completing this lab. Prerequisites for this lab is knowledge of Amazon CloudFront. Hence, if you do not know what this service is all about, please refer to this tutorial that I had created some time back. URL to this tutorial is mentioned right here at the bottom. Reference URLs. These are some reference URLs that can be very handy and very helpful. They definitely provide additional information about our lab scenario. You can also use the last URL mentioned over here to copy and create a test page to test your CloudFront distribution. Scenario for our lab today, you need to create, update, delete, and test a CloudFront distribution. So it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Step 1. In our first step, we will create S3 buckets. So we need to create two S3 buckets. We need to give them appropriate name. If you want, you can enable versioning, right? Keep all the other options as default. Ensure that public access is blocked, right? And you repeat these 4 steps to create 2 buckets and ensure that you note their names. So let us go ahead and do that. So this is my AWS console. I'm going to go to S3. And you can give whatever name that you like, right? I'm going to give a name of my choice, but feel free to give any name that you like. And just remember that you copy the names of your buckets. So let's say I'm going to say Nam CloudFront bucket 1, right? So that's the name that I'm planning to use. And everything else is default. Ensure that public access is blocked. If you want, you can enable versioning, right? Everything else stays the same and click on create bucket. So this is my first bucket and I'm going to create a second bucket over here. And I'm going to say Nam CloudFront bucket 2. If you want, you can enable versioning, ensure that public access is blocked, and click on create bucket. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy paste the names over here so that I remember that these were my S3 bucket names. So we have created 2 buckets right here. So we have basically completed this step. Now, further along, I'll be using bucket 1 and bucket 2 to reference these buckets, right? You go along with whatever names that you have chosen. So now we need to upload images. For bucket 1, create a folder named pictures and then upload 1 or more images under the pictures folder. And for bucket 2, you upload the same images, but without any folders, right? So no folders are needed. So let us go ahead and do that. So right here, I'm going to click on my bucket 1, create a folder. I'm going to give it name as pictures, create a folder. Go into this folder and then I have these 3 images. I'm going to copy this path and then say upload and add files. And I'm basically going to go to this path and upload these 3 images, right? And click on upload. So we have uploaded 3 images under our pictures folder for bucket 1. Close this, go back to your buckets. And now for bucket 2, again, upload. Remember, we don't have to create a pictures folder over here. We need to upload the images directly. So click on add files. And then again, select the very same images, open and upload. So I believe we have successfully completed this step. Step 2. Now we need to go ahead and create a CloudFront web distribution. So let's first go to CloudFront. So I'm going to go and look for cloud. This is CloudFront. And click on create CloudFront distribution. Now over here, so we've completed these 2 steps. We need to choose our origin name as bucket 1, right? And then we need to ensure that we set our origin access to origin access control settings, which is recommended, right? And then we need to create a new origin access control. So let us go ahead and complete some of these steps. So select the domain as your bucket 1, right? Your name automatically populated over here. For origin access, ensure that you select origin access control settings recommended. And now we need to create a new origin access control. So click on create control setting. This is the name of your CloudFront bucket. Just let everything remain the way it is. All the default settings, click on create, right? And it is actually giving you a warning over here that you must update your S3 bucket policy, and that is provided to you after the CloudFront distribution has been created. So now this remains the same, right? Everything over here remains the same. And then ensure that your cache policy is set to caching optimized, right? So if I go back, we've completed these steps. Ensure that your cache policy is set to caching optimize. All other settings remain default. And then go ahead and create your distribution. So I believe we have caching optimized selected over here. Scroll down. Everything else remains the same. One thing I do want to get or draw your attention to is the best, of course, performance is using all edge locations. But if you use this particular setting, you will pay a certain amount of price. So ensure that you choose your class accordingly. If you just want to use North America and Europe, do that. Or if you want to use North America, Europe with Asia and Africa and Middle East, choose that. I'm going to leave it at use all edge locations, but just be conscious about the price that you will be paying for choosing this particular option, right? So continue further ahead. Everything else remains the same. Click on create distribution. And this is your distribution name. I'm just going to copy it and paste it in my notepad right here. So this is your distribution name. Okay, so we have completed all of these steps. Again, just to remind you that once the distribution is created, it will basically give us a S3 bucket policy, right? And we need to go ahead and ensure that this policy is updated for a S3 bucket. And as the distribution has been created, it will be enabled, right? And eventually it will be deployed. And once the distribution has been deployed, then we will be able to use it. So let's go back. As you see, it is giving us a message over here that the S3 bucket policy needs to be updated. And it is also giving you an option to copy the policy. So click on this copy policy, and then it's giving you a link over here. Go to S3 bucket permissions to update policy. Click on that link. And it is going to get you to your S3 bucket. And we will update the bucket policy over here. So under permissions, scroll down, go to bucket policy, click on edit. Paste the policy here, scroll further down, and click on save changes. Right? So I believe our bucket policy has been updated. And if we go back to our CloudFront, and go back to distributions. It is enabled, but its status is still deploying. So be patient. It will take some time, right, for this to be deployed. And while it is being deployed, we will continue further ahead. So we've updated a bucket policy, right? So this step is done. And we only updated bucket policy for bucket 1. I just want you to remember that. Please do not update the bucket policy for bucket 2 at this time. We will update it at a later stage. Step 3. So while our CloudFront distribution is coming up and is being enabled and has been deployed, let us go ahead and create a test HTML page. So let us go ahead and copy the sample code. As I said, you can use one of the reference URLs to copy the sample code. What I'm going to do is I'm basically going to go to my slide over here. Hold on, let me go back. Sorry. I'm going to go to my slide over here, copy the code, right? Enable, put that back in the slideshow mode. And then go to my folder over here. I'm going to create a new document. I'm going to say test.html, right? And I am going to edit this HTML page, copy my code over here. And as it is saying, we need to basically replace our distribution domain name over here with the path for our S3 object. So our S3 domain name is, sorry, our CloudFront distribution domain name is right here. So go back, copy the distribution domain name right there. Oh, okay, I think I copied the wrong thing. Copy and paste it right there. And now we need to put our S3 image name along with its path. Now remember that in our bucket, our images are in the pictures folder. If you go to our S3 bucket, right, bucket 1. So this is our bucket 1. There is a pictures folder over here. And under that, we have, you can use any of the 3 files. I'm going to use simba.jpg. So I'm going to say pictures/simba.jpg. And I'm going to save this. Let's see if our CloudFront distribution is enabled and deployed. It seems it is enabled and deployed, so that is a good thing. So now we should be able to test this page. So let's double click on this. Now it is telling me that it is not able to fetch this. Now, why is this thing happening? This is happening because of one mistake that I made. And I purposely made that mistake. So let me go back over there. If you see, the pictures over here has a small p. So make this as a big P. It is case sensitive. And now when I refresh this, you should be able to see the image. So there is Simba's image right there. So our CloudFront distribution is working. We tested it. It's up and running. We are all good. So we were able to successfully create and test a CloudFront distribution. Please ensure that the path that you have over here is the correct path. It is case sensitive. Hence, I even showed you that if you make those mistakes, it will not come. So if you're facing any errors or issues, please go back, check your distribution domain name, check your object path, and then go ahead and test it. Right? So let us continue further ahead. So we basically completed all of these steps. The next thing that we need to do is we need to go ahead and update our web distribution over here. So go ahead and select our CloudFront distribution. So it is right here. So this is my CloudFront distribution. So select this. Now go to origin. So what we will do is we have created two buckets, right? So what we will do is we will go to the origins tab, edit our origin and select bucket 2 as our new origin. And once we have done that, again, we will set our origin access to, remember, origin access control settings. That is the recommended option. Again, we will have to select our origin access control, and whatever origin access control settings that we created last time, we will be using the same one again for bucket 2 as well. Ensure that your cache policy is caching optimized. Rest all remain the same, right? So all the settings remain the same. So let the default settings remain. So let us go back over here, go to origins, and then select this, click on edit. Now we have a bucket 1 over here. We want to remove that and we want to choose bucket 2. So we've chosen bucket 2. Remember, origin access needs to be origin access control settings recommended. We created an origin access control setting last time, so we will use the same one. This is my origin access control setting, right? And then scroll down, everything else remains the same. So click on save changes. So our changes have been saved. And if I go back to general, right, if you see, it is deploying my changes at this time. So it's enabled, but it is still deploying. So once this is up and running, then we will be able to test it. So while these changes are being made, we made two changes, right? So we basically changed our bucket and we changed our origin access control settings. So since the bucket has been changed and it has been changed to bucket 2, let us go ahead and update the S3 bucket policy for our bucket 2. That is this step. So we need to make those changes. So let us go to S3. Now, we don't have the policy this time around. So if you had copied the policy, that was great, but I didn't copy the policy. So now what? So go to your buckets. Now remember the policy that was created for bucket 1. Go back over there, right? And then go to your permissions. Go to your bucket policy and click on copy. Now go back to your buckets. Go to your bucket 2. Go to permissions. Go to bucket policy and edit it. Now paste your bucket policy right here. Right? Remember that this bucket policy was created for bucket 1. So ensure that you make your changes. If you see, it is showing bucket 1 over here. So ensure that you change it to bucket 2, right? If you do not change it to bucket 2, you will actually get an error. Let me show you that error. So if I try to save changes, it's going to tell me that there's something wrong over here. So if you're getting this error, that means there's something wrong with your policy. If you've copied the policy like me, most likely the error is that you have not changed your bucket name. So go back and change that bucket name to bucket 2, right? And then go ahead and save changes. So now our bucket 2 policy has been changed. So we have made those changes. So that's a good thing. Let's go back and look at our deployment. So deployment is still going on. And please be patient. It will take some time. And I'm going to pause the video over here and come back once the deployment has been completed. So our bucket is of course enabled and our changes have been deployed. So we are good to go. We also made changes to our bucket 2 policy. So those changes have also been done. So this is my test HTML. So if I refresh this, well, suddenly it stopped working. Now, why is that? If you are still getting a response for whatever reason, you can always copy this, go to an incognito mode just to ensure that you're not getting a response from your cache. Paste it over here and run this. Still no response, right? So why is that? That is because if you remember in bucket 2, we do not have the pictures folder. And if I go back to my test HTML, remember the path over here is pictures and then the image name. So I need to change this particular path. Remove pictures from here, save this, and now if I go back to my test HTML, refresh this, we should be able to see the image. There it is. So now you can see Simba's image. So ensure that you make the required changes to your test HTML and update the object path. So if you are getting a response after you have made the, you updated your bucket policy and made those changes, in spite of not changing your test HTML, is because that response is coming from your browser's cache, right? But the easiest way to do the test that is to, basically go into incognito mode and then try and reload your HTML page. So we basically tested our HTML page successfully and tested our CloudFront distribution successfully. The next thing that we need to do is to delete our web distribution. So let us do that. I'm going to close this, go back to our this. I'm going to close this as well. So this is my CloudFront distribution right here. Select it, click on disable, click on disable again, and be patient after this step. It's going to take some time to disable this. As you see, the status is disabled, but it is still deploying your changes. So, and that takes a significant amount of time, depending upon the time of the day and, what all locations you have chosen. So be patient. And once these changes have been deployed, then we will go ahead and delete our distribution. But since we are here right now, ensure that you clean up all your resources. So go to S3, go to your buckets, select your bucket, empty your bucket, right? So otherwise you will incur charges. So permanently delete, empty, exit, again, select your bucket, delete it, right? And again, for your bucket 2, empty your bucket, permanently delete, exit, and delete your bucket. Delete bucket. Okay. So buckets have been deleted successfully. Now let's go to CloudFront and see where we are. It's still deploying changes. It will take some time. So I will return once those changes have been deployed. So our changes have been deployed. Our CloudFront distribution has been disabled. So let's select our CloudFront distribution and click on delete. Delete. So our CloudFront distribution has been deleted. Remember, we also created origin access control settings. So ensure that you go and select that and delete those as well. So this is it from me today, guys. I hope that this hands-on lab was helpful. And I will see you shortly in some other tutorial or lab. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.